Hey everyone, KP here with another KP Talks, Worlds Edition this time. Um, I got second place. Uh, pretty happy with my results. Me and Lopez were playing the same two decks. I guess I can pull this up real quick. It's Warrior Light and Chaos. You just find out Materia Hunter into tournaments, and here they are. Um, where to begin? There's a lot to unpack here. What I'm going to do is talk about why we picked these decks, why we picked the cards, what we thought the meta would be like, what we believed were the best decks. Um, what else? I'm going to go over the videos of my games and Lopez's games because we're on the same decks. So why not? Um, and if I'm happy with my choices or not. Um, just the approach of going to Worlds. So to get to Worlds, I got 13th place at Nationals, and I got a pass down because somebody couldn't make it to Worlds. And that pass down has turned into another Worlds invite, which is kind of insane to me. It's just now hitting me. Um, sorry if I take some breaks here and there because ever since getting back from Japan, I was sick with the flu for a little bit over a week, and I'm just recovering. And I'm not 100% normal, but I'm like 95% normal. So I'm getting there, but might need to pause here and there just to catch my breath. So yeah, this pass down turned into a second Worlds invite. I'm pretty grateful for that. Um, I'm the kind of person that I feel like making the most of the moment is huge and a very big deal. And that's especially true for, you know, let's say, this pass down, you could argue is like a freebie, right? And like you could argue I did not earn a qualification for Worlds. You could make the opposite argument as well. But making most of that moment, that opportunity, maximize it. Um, I feel like I have learned my lesson on capitalizing on those scenarios. Um, the two times that I've gone to Worlds were due to via pass down. The first time I went was uh, I qualified through Gen Con, getting second place um, at one of the events, but Oki won, and that was his second Worlds invite, so it passed down to me. You can make the same argument of did I earn that invite, yes or no. I did not win the tournament. I got second. Um, so in a way, I qualified for Worlds twice with two pass downs. However, now you can make the argument that this third invite, I did earn it. So that's just hitting me, and oh, it's kind of unreal still. Um, I just want to shout out and thank all the people who supported me from home and at the event. Um, in the finals, this is like a real thing. Like half the room, I feel like, was supporting me, and I did not know everybody in that room. Um, that made me feel amazing and very, like welcoming, and losing the final sucks. It really does. But coming back into the room with a lot of people cheering me on and congratulating me and everything, that's the best support I could ask for. So thank you for all of you that were cheering me on. Okay. I'm just gonna start with this. Uh, it's two deck format. Um, we knew we were gonna play with some water cards because Leo and Luna Freya are just busted limit break cards. Um, also backup Luna is also really good. Uh, we felt like aggro mostly wasn't good enough. A lot of times when I say we, I mean me and Lopez, for what it's worth. We felt like a lot of aggro decks just, even if they won or they were winning in some situations, they weren't the right call. They weren't good enough, or they had ways to lose. Um, the exception to that was chaos. Chaos was still the fastest, the best, the most powerful thing to be doing. Yes, it can be answered. Yes, you can get unlucky, but it's still got the outrageous win rate, I feel like. And the losses we got were from Lev 6 bursting. And again, in a two deck format, only one of their decks can have that. So it's not even like, the other thing is too, in some decks with Lev 6, they have to end the game. So even if they burst in Lev 6 and they don't kill you, then you can still come back with chaos. That was, we were winning unwinnable games with chaos. That's what kind of sold us on the deck. I do think that something needs to be done in terms of bannings or limiting. I don't want to go too much on a rant on this because I don't know how much it's going to actually happen. I also don't necessarily think there's an imbalance per se, but there is a the format can become stale fast. I mean, Warriorlight's going to be a deck for as long as this, nothing touches it. And if that's where they want the game to be, then so be it. But I made an argument a while back of they need to do something to Chaos Arc and to Warrior Light and then the Mono Wind. This was like 3-4 sets ago. Because Chaos Arc is always going to be, or try to beat Warrior Light, even though I think Warrior Light's favored now. Like Chaos Arc is like the pseudo best control deck. Warrior Light's the best like proactive deck, and then Mono Wind's the best like, I don't care what you're doing, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do kind of deck. Like go over the top deck. And then aggro didn't really do much back then either. It was hard. I feel like it's hard to design a deck that beats any of that nonsense without being power crept. And I definitely don't want there to be power creep. I think we're already kind of pretty far along with that, but there's still some checks and balances, and still, I mean, this deck's a perfect example of this. There are ways to counteract the powerful cards, and I think that's a good place to be. But I don't want, Mono Wind's kind of got its own thing already with Luso and doing all its things. I don't want there to be a better Mono Wind, Like that's not where I want to be in this game. So that doesn't really solve problems. That pushes them aside. But my point is, next year from now, are we going to be playing Refia Warrior Light? Are we, like, Turbo Chaos is a little bit relatively new, but I think it's a little unhealthy for play style. So where I would go is I personally want to see Warrior Light banned, but that's probably never going to happen because the legend and it's an iconic card and it's getting in the reprint set. Probably won't happen. But Warrior Light, I mean, even limited to one, I'd be happy with. Refia is obviously the strong card, but I think Refia is like your tribal leader. If this card didn't exist, you wouldn't be playing all these Warrior Light backups. So I think it's okay to have Refia because Refia, like, it doesn't force you to play bad cards per se, but it kind of does. Um, so I would leave Refia alone. I put Warrior Light to one or ban it, and I would ban Raijin. I think Raijin is extremely degenerate. Yes, if you banned it, it kind of messes with Fujin Raijin, Cypher, Adia, all that kind of stuff, and that's a little unfortunate because it's like its own little package. But Raijin promotes so much unfairness for such cheap costs. Like if you cast it or if you mill it, it's still relatively cheap, and like it's repetitive and it's a lot of nonsense. So I also feel like Chaos could be a deck without Fujin Raijin. However, turn one, 4 points of damage doesn't happen very often. You probably have to go towards playing Gilgamesh and Warrior Light, and to have like a 7 element Chaos deck again. I think we'd kind of regress to that, and I think that'd be fine because the deck would be a lot slower. I think Chaos is a lot more fair when you're not winning on turn two. Shocker. Excuse me. After that, I'd probably look at Wind. I don't know what I would take, but um, it may not even be take something. It may just be because Warrior Light would be a little weaker. Your mid-range decks would be a lot weaker, which means aggro becomes a lot stronger, and that might be enough just to keep Wind down as well. So maybe there's a chance you're not supposed to take anything from Wind. But I feel like, personally, going in the tournament, and I still feel this way, the best three decks are 4-color Wall, Chaos, and Mono Wind. I knew I was likely to play 2 of those 3 decks, but I really wanted to land on 4-color Wall and Chaos. But the Limit Break, as you can tell, it was a little wonky because they shared the water cards and Noctis. Hindsight after the tournament, so me and Lopez do a lot of reflecting. A lot of times we play the exact same 2 decks or deck or whatever it is. I personally almost landed on 1 card different. I almost played a second Varus in this deck. I don't know what I would have cut. We last second. So we cut this King Tycoon and had 18 backups. And it was Windy Stola was in the deck, the 3-drop Windy Stola. But we last second cut it for the 3rd Tycoon. Because we felt like the only time we were losing with this Warrior Light deck is when we couldn't play the game. So, yeah, we wanted to play the game. It's that simple. But Windy Stola was pretty good in this deck. I think the meta's in a place of, which this sounds familiar with like ice decks and stuff like that. Get ahead, stay ahead. I think that is where you're at. I think it's really hard for control decks to control in this meta because you can't answer everything. And that's why I feel get ahead, stay ahead is a good strategy. And cards like that, Windy Stola, Cecil, they, obviously Alma, they help you fulfill that. Now, if you want to play the control role with this deck, which I was pretty reactive throughout the tournament with this, Clive and Ifrit is one of your best controlling themes to answer the aggressive decks. Also, Cecil and the Clive is just like really good too. Or, the all reliable Cecil and the Warrior Light. Let's see. So while I think those three decks were the best decks, I do think the two best cards in the format right now, which is a little bit unfair, but it's still where I was landing with my testing, is Clive and Ifrit. Like that's one card, I guess, and then Axstar, Fire Ice Axstar. I think those are the best two cards in the game right now, and just because they are very efficient, they answer a lot of board states. They're very powerful, and they're kind of like must answers. It's they felt more overwhelming than any other cards that I played with. So, however, I felt like there weren't very many decks that played both or could play both. Alex figured it out. He played Wall 7. Let's see what he had. But he had 2 Clive, 2 Ifrit. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this deck list, but there's something to be said about the man, stuck to his guns and with both Wind and this deck. Playing 2 full power decks and doing well with it again, which is kind of insane. So, but where I wanted to be, Axstar, Clive, and then Mono Wind is another, it's in my top 3. So if I knew about this deck, I don't know if I would have played it or not. I have no idea, because I still think Raijin and Chaos and all that's kind of insane. But I don't know. Like I could have played Chaos and this, I suppose. Leo would probably go in here still because of 3-drop. I don't know. Would have been close, but yeah. So that's where I was at with the format. I do think there was like 15 plus playable decks. I think a lot of regions were just gonna pick what they're most known for or what they've been playing. I didn't think Knights was up to snuff. However, I do think Knights with Clive now probably is with Clive Ifrit. I felt like Clive Ifrit answered Knights really well, which is why I didn't really believe in it. However, that doesn't mean that they didn't show up at the tournament. They definitely still did. Let's see. I can pull up Twitter real quick. I can pull up my matches. Okay. So I don't remember everything here, but I'm going to mention what I do remember. So round 1, I was against Rob. He's from Australia. He was playing Chaos. So the first 4 rounds I was playing 4-color Wall, and the last 4 rounds I was playing Chaos. He played Chaos. I think he Chaos specialed once on turn 1 and didn't have that great of a opener. And I just got the setup with Wall, hit some bursts, and then I believe I board cleared him, and then had a big turnaround turn and ended up winning like that. Round 2 against Hara, Fire Water against Wall. This was the matchup I wanted near the finals, because I feel like Wall is massively advantaged against Fire Water. If I was going to say the third best card in the game right now, it's probably Realm. However, I don't know if I really like any of the Realm decks, at least not right now. I'd have to explore a little bit more. But that card is just like extremely strong. But water is also a very demanding element, and I think I'd rather play other water decks than play a realm deck, especially in 2 deck format. So water is just like the top tier element, and if I'm playing a realm deck, I better have a damn good reason to be playing that over something like, like where if Leo's going in the realm deck, that means it's not going in chaos or in 4-color wall or whatever else I'm doing. So it better be a ridiculously broken realm deck, Hara was playing Fire Water, and I noticed there was a lot of oddish cards in the deck in Swiss. Something that happened a lot when I played against this Fire Water deck with both Chaos and with Warrior Light was a lot of times he would burst. So I remember in Swiss, I had a board of like Warrior Light, Sea Soul, and Ifrit, and he burst like a Tidus. And it's like, well, you can only bounce my Warrior Light. You probably don't want to do that, like that. A lot of times when he was bursting stuff, there were situational bursts, and they didn't always matter. And I didn't care, which it's a good place to be. And that's also the drawback of some of those cards. Tidus and Tros are like a really good pairing. I think Mono Water is a good place to be with that right now. I think it's really strong. But there are weaknesses for it. Real quick, the reason why I opted for this kind of Warrior Light deck, just for reference, I don't like Warrior Light decks. I think they are a 4-color mess. I mean, like, we were really, really greedy on our element colors here. We really wanted more water cards, but there weren't water cards that we wanted to play. So, this is just a pile of good stuff kind of deck, and we aren't, willing. If we're adding bad cards to the deck, then we didn't want to play the deck, if that makes sense. So we knew going in we were greedy with water, so we held a lot of the water cards if possible. And the win cards, like, yeah, Winslow count as well, but the win cards weren't nearly as important as the water cards. Like just look at the power level between Lena, Sarah, Kuchel, and Refia, right? Une, Warrior Light, versus Zidane, Arc, Cecil, King Tycoon, whoop-de-doo, right? Yes, Zidane's good, don't get me wrong, but sometimes Zidane is literally just worthless. You can say the same with Cecil. The reason we played this version of the deck is because there's a lot of haste, and this is a tempo version of the deck rather than more of a tribal version of the deck. I was a believer that the only Warrior Light cards that mattered were Warrior Light and Refia. I almost went down the path of like, am I just gonna play the Warrior Light backups and Refia and like don't play Ferris, don't play Arc, just play a good stuff deck, right? But there's still some value and merit to making them respect these cards. In Swiss, they don't know you have one of each. There's that as well. So actually, Alex, in round 4, I damaged my one Ferris and then damaged a Tycoon on like damage 3, and I didn't get a Ferris, and he gave me a weird look. And then after the match, he's like, "You playing one Ferris?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm playing one Ferris." So, you know, it didn't feel like, again, so I want to put this into perspective too. This is the World Championship. Every single player in the room is a good player. So playing around that, building around that, all that matters. Um, would I bring this kind of deck to a Materia Cup? I don't think so. And the reasoning is because um, I think people would play differently at a Materia Cup than they would at the World Championship. I also think that the level of play is different at both of those events. Um, an example would be I could have zero Ferris in this deck, and people like if I had zero Ferris, I'd probably change Tycoon to something else, but um, or lower the number or something, whatever it'd be. I'd worry about that later. Um, the issue is when people see you setting up Warrior Light backups and stuff, they don't want to put you to damage 3 until they're like ready to answer that. They never would. But in a Materia Cup, some people don't care. They just do it anyways. So I expected the highest amount of like skill at the World Championship. And with that in mind, I think hardly anybody would have put me to damage 3 unless they were ready for it. And in those scenarios, Ferris is not good. Arc is not good. So to me, those are like 10% of my games maybe. When they happen, they're very strong, but sometimes they're even not even strong enough. They put you to 3 and they can answer it. So it's not always the go-to. When I couldn't figure out the deck with Clive and Axstar, my next go-to was Clive and Zidane. That's what I wanted to do. And it wasn't necessarily this deck either. Like there was like a mono fire variant I was messing with. What else? Like a fire water variant. Like Clive and Zidane together was also just very strong. So sliding it into this was also just very good. The feature match here for round 3 is Sergio. I'll explain a little bit more about that. But I think having haste is huge in a mirror match as well. I also think that having haste makes some of your bad matchups good matchups. Like I think wind usually beats Warrior of Light, but I have haste. So that turns a lot of things on its head in my opinion. I don't think it necessarily makes me like super favorable, but I think Warrior Light's a pretty big dog against wind. Like 35, 65, because Nash on your stuff is like really bad. It's still pretty bad in this deck, but having haste, you chip away so much, and eventually you'll just have a go off turn, and they have to start throwing away their resources. So I beat Sergio in round 3 feature match. We'll watch that in a little bit. Lost to Alex round 4. He actually didn't play a wall 7 against me at all. And then we have lunch break and round 5. So this is a good time to mention this. The entire tournament, both me and Lopez chose to go second with both decks. For me, there's an exception. I don't know if Lopez did this or not, but if I'm on Chaos and I knew I was going into Wind, I would pick to go first. Or if I'm on Chaos and I don't know if they're on Chaos or not, then I would pick go first. Because I wouldn't want to go second in the Chaos Mirror. There's too many... in the Chaos Mirror, when it's 2 really good players, it literally is just like who gets lucky, whatever. But if they don't, like, if a player doesn't know it's a Chaos Mirror, then the player who does know is severely advantaged. But again, going into the World's tournament, I'm gonna put people at the highest amount of skill. So in this game, round 5, I actually chose to go first because I did not know what Raymond was on, which was Knights, which I think he played it right because Eureka also played it like this when I played him in the top 8. Like I went first Chaos, dumped my hand, whatever, yada yada, and then he dumped his hand right after. Um, he didn't have a Laswell, but he top decked a Laswell next turn, and that was a little scary, but still ended up winning that one. I also think it's good to note here. So I have a split of Tonberry, Cactar, and Cloud. We could have had a second Cloud over Gilgamesh. I never use this, but you just never know. Um, but having a Tonberry Cactar here is good for a couple reasons. Discarding two to your discard pile can sometimes matter for Fujin Raijin and other things. And we don't have Leo in this deck, so but also and to basically fill up the graveyard for card count. Looking at top two, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but sometimes you're looking for the chaos special, so that matters. But the biggest thing here is choose an active forward 3 or less, break it. That matters for against cards like Charlotte. If Charlotte's for some reason dull, then this card can kill their active cards. So it gets around Charlotte if it's dull. That can matter. Also, the reason we went second, let's go back to that point. Sorry, I'm talking in circles. A lot of things are popping up in my head. So the reason we went second is because we felt like the majority of the format is mid-range mirror matches, even with Warrior Light. And we felt like the extra card mattered tremendously because our water count's greedy. But also, I felt like personally the only way to lose when they go first in a mid-range game is if if it's a mirror match and they have like Warrior Light turn 3 or something like that. You know, they set up all their backups and then they go off. Hara did something like that to me in the finals. But that when they do that, they also go down to like 1 or 2 cards in their hand. So it's also still pretty risky because if they do something like that and I play as a Dane and take all their good cards or whatever, that could be very bad for them because like they could just have to limit break the next turn or whatever. It could be like a not great turn for them. Also, I felt like if they're set up, I could catch up and set up with Cecil, with a card like Cecil. I could also counteract with a card like Une. If they did commit, so let's say they have 4 backups and then they go like Warrior Light, I don't know, have a Warrior Light something turn. Not Refia. Refia would be too good here. But like Warrior Light something. Well, if I counteract with like Clive Ifrit and go in, that answered their Warrior Light. So they still have to do something. Like after I do that turn. So like, yes, I wouldn't have all the backups that they have, but I could still combat their good draw. Also, Cecil is really good in the mirror match. Cecil's just a good meta call in my opinion. I think it's good against all the priming stuff going around right now. I think it's really good against some of the mono ice deck, Knights. I think it's really good in the mirror match against Ferris Pings. This card's just like overall very, very solid right now. I didn't test this part, but I don't think I can fit it with Clive and Ifrit in the deck. I think there's a version of this deck with 3 Wind Cecils and 1 Earth Cecil to damage yourself as well. I think that's definitely viable, but I don't know if you can fit it in this current iteration. Probably just be a totally different deck. Probably wouldn't be as fire heavy. I don't know if you could play Clive Ifrit and the Cecils. I'm not sure. Okay. And going second with Chaos, having the extra card definitely matters. And them having 1 less card also definitely matters. Now, you can say that, like, them going first means they see the, like, if they're mulligan to Mist Dragon, for example, they'll have the 11th card. But I don't think I really care about Mist Dragon. I care, but I it's not the first Misdragon I care about, it's the second. Um, I feel like with Chaos, I wasn't losing to the answer cards. I was losing to if they can answer twice or if they can answer and kill me. That's what I cared about. So like second Misdragon or like Misdragon Shantoto or something like that, right? It always have to be a two card combination. So them having the one, oh, also, there's merit to some people put me on this deck already. So going second with the Warrior Light deck, sometimes they thought I was on Chaos when I was on Warrior Light. So they would keep sketchy hands or they would play a certain way and they'd play in a way that set them back in tempo. So I gained the extra card and the initiative. Like it's, again, is that something I would do like in Materia Cup? No, but it's a world championship play. So there's that. Um, all that being said, in the finals, every single time I had the opportunity against Tara, I still went second with Warrior Light because I felt like outside of the nut draw, I felt like I was advantaged with this deck. So yeah. Okay. Round 6. Um, I was against JG with Ice Wind. He had a really heavy backup draw, and I just ran over him. He could answer my board. Round 7 against Eureka. I lost with Chaos to Mono Wind. This game was really ridiculous. We've been calling it the one percenter. This is the best game of Final Fantasy I've played in a very, very long time. This round 7. So Eureka wins the die roll, goes first, plays like Chocobo Sam, get Fat Chocobo, says go. And I go off on turn 1, hit Fujin Raijin, deal 4 points of damage. Turn 2, he sits there in the tank, trying to figure out if he has any outs. And he says screw it and goes for it. And he goes discard 2, play Rosa. It was like discard, play Citra, remove 5 because he had to discard 2 from Chaos. So go get Chocobo Summon, cast Chocobo Summon on Citra, untap his 1 backup, draw a card, and then play Citra again, remove 5 again, go get Alexander, cast Alexander. So he's shrinking with Citra throughout all this too. Reveal with, or cast Alexander, reveal with, I don't know what the reveal was. I forget what the reveal was with Rosa. It probably was a summon. Draw 2 with Alexander, for cast 5. Cast 6 was another Alexander, I believe. And then cast 7 was Luso. And it cleared my board. So he had like a couple cards in hand, 1 backup, Rosa, Citra, Luso. So he got there off the draws. And it was kind of insane. That being said, he was still extremely far behind. And I, as you can tell, 6 to 2. I dealt 6, he dealt 2. I decked out. The very last turn in the game, I had a 50-50 to win the game. There was an Earth card in my deck and a non-Earth card. When I drew the Earth card, I could use Chaos from my bin to kill Zatomos. But when I played Lightning from my break zone, I drew the non-Earth card. So unlucky sometimes. That being said, hindsight, we had the post-game discussion. He could have limit braked another card just as another blocker, and then I'd have 0 outs. Also, he played LB Zidane and milled me 4 cards, which sped up the clock. And also, they shared an element both times, so he drew a card both times. Oh man, it was a crazy match. And then round 8 against Ryogi. I this game was very, very close, and it's because I hit a little bad variance um, with the Chaos deck. I also had bad variance against JG, but since he had a heavy backup hand, it didn't matter, luckily, because he's on wind. So um, the extra time didn't punish me. But against Ryogi, I Chaos Special twice on turn 1, and I hit just a Fujin. And I'm sitting here like, oh no, it was just a Raijin, sorry, just a Raijin. And I attack, so I do 3 damage, whatever. And I'm like, I'm dead to Jill here. Like just flat out Jill. Jill into Shiva kills my board, and I'm dead. Luckily, he didn't have it. Um, so that was a really close game, but we squeaked it out and made top 8. Um, I might have. Yeah, I do. So top 8 playing against Sasha. Um, and I I play Warrior Light around game 1 and beats his Mono Wind. So then he switches to Water against my Chaos deck. And we go to time in that game. So the way the day 2 worked is you play 3, it's a best of 3, but you play 3 30-minute games. So every individual game is 30 minutes. So we're in game 2, and we 30 minutes elapses, so we go to time. And we go to time because I wouldn't say this is necessarily like slow play or anything like that. Our game was really complex, and Sasha was trying to figure out when he could or couldn't attack. Um, and I wasn't decking out because I stopped milling. I do the chaos thing. But I only special twice, and we play a bunch of a bunch of turns after that. I end up hitting a left 6 and a couple other bursts, so he bounces back. But I get him to 6 damage, and we go to time, and I'm at like 1 damage, so I'm sitting here like, Sasha has to attack. And when he does, that gives me a chance to get that last point of damage, and he knows it. So it gets super complex. And Sasha has to attack because if the game doesn't conclude, I win the match because I won game 1. So that's even more stress. And we clarified that with the judge. So it was a really interesting situation. And to top it all off, when Sasha starts attacking, he hits an Odin, and that gets rid of a blocker as well. So uh, it's a crazy game, but I did not get game 2. So then we go to Mono Wind versus Chaos, and Chaos gets there. So, but yeah, that was a crazy game against Sasha. And then next round I play against Eureka. Uh, game 1, I steamroll him. Game 2, he steamrolls me. Like less than 10 minutes, maybe even less than 5. He has Knights and Mono Wind. And then game 3, we have a really crazy, complex game, Mono Wind versus Warrior Light. But we go to time, and this again, I would want to emphasize the haste in Warrior Light. I got Eureka to 6. I got him to 5 pretty early, but I got him to 6 right before time. And again, I don't think we were playing necessarily slow, but it was one of those situations that we kept answering each other's boards. And we also took a lot of game actions, both of us did. So it just took a lot of time. And he has to attack because I'm ahead on damage. And he hits a Kusith. And because we're in time, I grab back a Shantoto, and Shantoto is bored. So he can't win in time anymore. Also, all my Clives were removed. I don't remember if all my efforts were, but it's 7 CP. So the only thing he could Zidane is another Zidane, so he couldn't really. All my Warrior Lights were gone. He couldn't really get Hasters to do the damage to me. It's one of those games where if we were not in time, he probably would have won. Because we looked after the match. I would say like 80, maybe 85% of my deck was useless, like backups or useless summons or whatever. I went through almost all my forwards in our game. So I was basically out of gas. But since we were in time, I won due to time. So it's a little bit unsettling to win that way, but we're at the highest level of competition, and I'm sure he understands. I also think he would probably done the same play if he was in my shoes. It sucks either way. Like we're both on the same page, um, but it is what it is. Um, Next round, I'm playing Tara and end up winning with both decks, which means I'm guaranteed to go to Worlds the next year. And then I lose to him in the final twice. And we'll go over that soon. It's going to be a bit of a longer video. All right. So let's go to the future matches here. Can we speed this up? All right. So with these Warrior Light mirrors, I feel like it's extremely efficient. Or I'm sorry, it's extremely important to be efficient. So what Sergio just did right here, this is what I don't want to ever do. Turn 1, 2 backups, turn 2 backup, but don't use this CP. This is what I don't want to do. He ends up playing Akusith, but still that's not necessarily using the CP. It is and it's not, right? You're just trading your cards. This is what I wanted to refrain doing with the deck. This is also why I don't like the deck, because this happens from time to time. However, I think our version helps mitigate that kind of stuff. And I also think that like it's not necessarily a race to get like this is wasted CP, quote unquote, right? Like in theory, I mean, I didn't pay attention if he had Lina already. He probably would have played on turn 1 if he did. But like clearly a better curve is like turn 1 Lina, Luneth, and then turn 2 Cryo, right? I'm not sure if he had access. I'm assuming he didn't. I also don't know if I can see it. Probably can't even see it. Yeah, I doubt it. So, but anytime I can do something like that saves you a card, right? That's what I'm trying to play for when I play this kind of deck. Because every single card matters. And if I have to set myself back a turn to gain that card, I will do that in a deck like this. Is it right or wrong? I don't know, but I play that way because I feel like every card matters. That's also why I go second. So here I tell Sergio, I play a King Tycoon, go get Lina. Tell him when I'm going to get Lina, play a Tyro. And I sit here for a little bit and I'm like, do I want Warrior Light? Do I want to get something else? Do I want to get a Nune here? Kind of stave off his setup. But I didn't want to put too much thinking into it because this is literally the beginning of the game. I'm going to turn 3 Warrior Light. So this is like the nut draw-ish, right? Turn 2, 4 colors, turn 3 Warrior Light. And I'm looking for an action card. There's a bunch of them in my deck. Clive is one, Zidane is one, Bosch is one, Refia is one. fifth backup I'd be happy with, which I unfortunately kind of brick. And I draw the Dane here, which is nice. So drawing the Dane off of Warrior Light means I'm going to play it. Which Sergio Kukulin's here, which I don't know if I 100% agree with. It does prevent damage, but I think I would have preferred to take the damage, try to burst. Also, if he draws a really good card here, I can just take it with Zidane. It's an interesting spot. Because I also know the Bart's decks usually don't play as many bursts, but like, I still think, yeah, it's interesting. Do I take the damage to make it closer to Ferris or not? That's interesting. But so right here, I'm going to attack Warrior Light and Kukul, and Sergio says no blocks, and I say, okay, but before damage, I want to Kukul in this and get rid of it. And I'm doing that because I want to do this before a burst would target Warrior Light. Hitting Warrior Light there for damage is really good. Zidane cannot attack because I got Kukulin. In the chat here it says KP must have had a bit of fatigue as he forgot to discard Lina. He switched to play the Tyro, I think. No, I discarded Shintoto and Luneth for Tyro. I discarded Warrior Light for King Tycoon, and then I discarded Shintoto and Luneth for Tyro. And the last two cards in my hand were Lina and Warrior Light. Maybe there's a higher quality. Oh, nice. Let's go. So here's Sergio LBs to fight. This guy, Vajrahata Wu, I definitely didn't say that right. Whatever. This guy's been really impressive. I've been a big fan of this guy. He literally checks like a lot of boxes. So here I've won Cecil, and I'm thinking, man, I wish I had a card to put into play with it, but I don't. So I'm kind of digging with the Mist Dragon. So I Mist Dragon, and Sergio responds with Bart's effects. And draw a Materasu. Hey there. So attack with Warrior Light and hit an arc, which triggers my Lena, and that makes me draw a Cryo, which is exactly what I wanted because now I have something to put in play with Cecil. So I sit here and think, is there more I want to do? And the answer is yes, because I want to make sure the coast is clear for board wipes before I commit here. So I Cecil, put in play Cryo. There isn't really any good targets here, so I'm just going to get into Materasu because so the other strength of this deck is, so again, with the theme, get ahead, stay ahead. I'm clearly ahead on board. Is it that by that much? No, it's not. However, it's enough to like if I draw like a Refia here and I have Alma, like I'm probably just gonna win flat out, right? Um, there's also like if I draw a Clive, that's another example. So get ahead, stay ahead. Also, the strength of the deck is so let's say Sergio Chantotoed, right? That's probably the best possible for him here is to board wipe. Because I have the haste in the deck, I can still like bounce back with a powerful turn. You know, like it's not unreasonable to like be like, oh, I drew Warrior Light into another Zidane or a Clive, right? Um, Drawing. By the way, the draw effect on Clive is extremely relevant. Um, Also, it's pretty sick to like stack it with a burst because it's like if you go to 0 cards and they burst and you just draw 3 cards, it's kind of cool. um, so uh, it's really nice um, to filter out your bad cards for good cards. But also the fact of like you're putting on way more pressure with the deck than you were in the past because of all the haste. Also, at this point, I believe 2 of Sergio's warrior lights are gone. It's either 1 or 2 Refias are gone. So I knew you had Zidane. You played it, took him Amaterasu. Um, but I can beat a Zidane. That's why I didn't care about it. Also, Zidane doesn't really add anything relevant to the board, in my opinion. But also, him playing it to me mean like he kind of has to play it because I'm Alma, but it's also something that I'm not too scared about because it's not answering my board. So it doesn't really matter. And he plays his Tyro, and he can't really get anything too good because I'll just Zidane it away, right? He gets the dual wield Barts, 3 drop Barts. And here it is. So I drew Refia. So, you know, if I had a Materasu here, it'd be just game over, right? So what I'm thinking, I have a pretty long turn here. And I think the judge actually. So the judges were very, very good at this event to make sure we played at a good pace. And I think the judge actually pressures me here and says, I need you to make a move. Because I was trying to weigh, do I play Refia or do I play Titus? And I picked Titus. Because uh, I go to the same amount of cards in my hand. I'm adding a threat. I'm I have a removal spell, and it's also setting Sergio behind. Like it just does. It checks all the boxes, right? I'm also dealing 3 points of damage. Also, if I drew like an Amaterasu again, the game's just like over. Oh, also I put Zidane at the bottom instead of Vajraharu because um, if he did like Burst of Kusith or something, I wouldn't want it as this card pile. So again, this is a scenario like if he has a go off turn, right? Like Arc Ferris isn't good enough because I have Cecil. And if he had Shantoto, I feel fine because I have haste in my deck. Like he has to have Shantoto, right? And he knows it. Like he missed Dragon because he has to. It's not about how many cards he has. It's about finding the right card. He draws Warrior Light, and I think so. He Kuchelins here, but this puts him out of Shintaro range. And attacks, take the damage, plays a blocker, but the blocker is not going to matter because I drew a Nune, which ends the game. He tapped his Warrior Light, but I have Cecil Tax, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Let's see. It's Eureka. I think it's the last match. Yes, the best match. Okay, so this is a Chaos Mirror match, and Lopez is going second. And this is exactly what we want to see. um, we get Roche and then Mystinian Warp. So if Lopez goes off here, he's like severely ahead. And he has it. So now he hits a Raijin. Is he going to hit a Fujin, though? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he has no special. There it is. All right. So I think Lopez is in an overwhelmingly dominating position right now because his opponent is down 3 cards technically because the Roche is going to get sacrificed. He's going to discard 2 and sacrifice Roche. That's winning by 3. The Estinian's not going to matter. It's just two cards for 2 points of damage. And then after that, it's just an 8k, so we don't care about that. So in theory, it's another -2 cards. The Chaos Mirror can be very brutal. But again, I don't know if Sho knew it was a mirror match. Also, let me see what he discarded. Let's go back a little bit. Because it didn't look like his hand was that great. Attack for 1, discard Fujin for Estinian. Blue Worm, Sarah Mobius. So having the Blue Worm and the Sarah Mobius also means you could have Luna Freya. So turn 1, Luna Freya. You'd have 2 cards left. You draw a card, go to 3. Still pretty bad. If you know it's a mirror match, it's still pretty bad. Discard 3. No. 6. You discard 3, go to 4. You wouldn't go to. Okay, so yeah, you discard 3, play Luna Freya, draw a card. You'd go to 4. So, but you probably still do that knowing just because there's still the possibility of the nuts. But if you don't even have a chaos, that's really, really bad. Yeah, I don't know. Seems pretty tough to navigate out of. Can we? No, we can't tell. I was gonna say if his last card that we didn't know was a chaos, maybe you go for it. So maybe this was just the right thing to do and just navigate. Hope it's one of those things too. I think Sho's hand is good enough against the non-chaos decks. Like his deck, his draw is still very aggressive, but it's just not good for the mirror match. So he killed the Fujin here, which I found interesting. I think I would have killed the Raijin just because a card like Cypher exists, which we do have in our deck. But it is a little unlucky that Lopez has the 3rd Fujin. Little Set's a really interesting card in the deck. It shows dead to a Chaos Special, which it looks like Lopez has enough cards. Looks like he's showing us, yeah. 12 exactly, I think. Lopez expecting a second Cloud. dead on board currently. Spectral Keeper. Okay, this is a good example. Well, this doesn't matter in this scenario, but we played a one of Spectral Keeper. Um, we wanted a lightning card, we wanted a 2-drop, and we wanted a monster. It's that simple. We didn't care for Behemoth because Behemoth felt like it was only good in the nut draws, and even then, it's kind of an all-in card. So we also didn't play a card like Cleon because it's while it is good against a card like Mistdragon, decks can still beat the Chaos deck without Mistdragon. So like if you go all in, the other thing, so um, let's say you have the nuts with Chaos, right? You go turn one Chaos, going second. You go turn one Chaos, and then special. That's 5 cards of your hand. So you have 2 left over, which means you can Cleon. So if you start the turn with Cleon and do that, you use your whole hand. But that also means you can't search. You can't use Ezel or Larsa, which means you just have to naturally draw the nuts. Will that happen sometimes? Yes, it will. But the other thing is sometimes Mistdragon doesn't even matter, but then they like board clear you, and now you have a dead Cleon in play instead of having 2 cards in your hand. Um, so we never really wanted to cast the Cleon. We, like an example, I don't say in every scenario, but like we'd rather play a backup than play a Cleon because even if we get board wiped, we still have a backup in play for LBs and for like lightning and just future cards. So um, playing the Cleon, I feel like puts you even more all in when you don't have to be more all in. I think the strength of this deck isn't, it's already got enough offense. I think everybody knows that. The strength of aggro decks is the ability to bounce back. And a card like Cleon is kind of like a protect the queen strat or like a House of Cards scenario where, you know, it protects certain things, but then once it's exploited, you just lose the game. And I don't think we need to do that with a deck like Chaos. I think you can make the deck stronger by having the ability to bounce back. So that's the end of that one. This is the
We did. We saw 3.
this is the final winner's final. So day 2. Oops. Speed up. It's Firewater versus Chaos. So Horror has a lot of bursts here that can screw me. Lev 6, Titus are the big ones. Spam this B to cheer on KP. Thanks, Jeff. So play Chaos Special it, or play Ezel, search for Chaos Special it. Pretty mediocre hits, but it is acceptable because horror goes to a very few amount of cards in hand, and I have an insane amount of really good draws here. If I can play Water, Lightning, that's really good. If I draw another Chaos, that's really good. I drew Chaos Raijin, which is also ridiculously good. So I'm sitting here thinking, what's the best play? And I'm debating. So I don't have. So this is what I just did here. I tapped and looked. Um, so I was thinking Leo. Leo's not in my chaos deck. Leo's in the warrior light deck. So what what we put the most time into in our testing, me and Lopez, is where does Leo belong and where does Noctis belong? And hindsight, we probably should have swapped them. We should have probably put Leo into Chaos and put Noctis into Warrior Light. However, Leo, look, they're good in every deck, right? Um, but that's kind of the drawback of having like playing both of these decks. We're not playing either of them at full power. However, we still believe that they were both extremely strong, which is why we played them. And it kind of showed that, we got second and third, um, how strong they were. But that right there, that gesture was, oh, I can just Leo, no big deal. I can't Leo. um, so so I was thinking Leo and then Cal Special try to hit a Raijin. That's the maximum EV here, but I can't do that. So I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I'm playing the Lightning here to duel and draw a card, and I drew another Raijin, which is a little unfortunate because I could have Cal Special and would have hit. It is what it is, but I can do 6 damage. Put hard to 6 here theoretically. So I have a Chaos in my hand still, um, and this is a lot of pressure. What I am, so a lot of times with these attack orders, I want, yeah, Chaos has to go first because of level 6. But here I'm debating, do I attack with Lightning or do I not attack with Lightning and let him have the opportunity to trade? And so here, let me pause. I attack with Raijin because of a couple of reasons. Kukulin's one, so if this gets Kukulin, it can't attack anymore. Um, yes, that's true with Lightning, but Raijin's a 9K, so um, that's another big deal. Whereas like if you Kukulin Lightning, okay, sure, it can't attack, but also it's gonna always be a threat while it's in play. Um, whereas like I want to set up a board where like if he wants to trade Tros for Lightning, deal. I'm okay with that because then I can Lightning again, of course, right? I always want to offer this trade in every scenario. Whereas like there are some scenarios where if I attack with a Raijin and he had a Kukulin, not right now because well this is the third damage, but like there are scenarios where if I attack with Raijin and he has Kukulin and blocks, like that could end up bad for me. Um, it's a little different because of like Fujin in play and yada yada, but like what if he had a big creature or whatever, right? There are some scenarios like that where with lightning's disposable. Lightning's did her job already. It can die and then I benefit from it. So I don't really mind if that happens. So we bounce Fujin. So we do 4 here, and we have Chaos in our hand still. So the big deal is we dodged left 6. So this is a big turn for Hara. Hara can literally get rid of my whole board. Chooses not to attack with Tros. And this is going to be a big turn for me too. So I don't have the greatest hand here. So I am going to Warp Estinian and go for the kill the next turn. Um, if Hara attacks, great. Lightning's in the break zone. I can bring it back. I'm probably going to win. If Hara doesn't attack, great. Like it's a win-win situation. So we get another Leo. Believe that's a Sarah Mobius 2 Ezel Chaos. So I'm pretty sure this is like, oh, this is, I think this is the misplay turn. So I sit here and think, if this is the turn I think it is, I think Hara misplayed on this turn and it cost him. Um, I sit here and think for a little bit because I don't have enough cards to Chaos remove 5 and to use the Earth Chaos. Um, and I remember again the judge um, asking me to make an action. Okay, it's not this turn. Or maybe it is, but it's main phase 2. Yep. Hara's worried about a Chaos Special. I'm pretty sure it's his turn. Yeah, remove 5. So I have a Dark Chaos and an Earth Chaos left in my break zone. That's it. So I cannot use the one in the break zone. Hara has 3 cards, and he chooses to kill the Chaos now. So the reason he does this, I think, is because he's scared of like specials and things like that. However, from his side, all he's got to do is animate Tros and then sack it, discard the 2 non-Clive or Ifrit cards. His last card is going to be the Clive or Ifrit. It's Clive in this case. Just untap, right? You sack the Tros, discard 2, untap, attack. I have to block, and then you special after that. And now I have no creatures. I have a card in my hand, and he just cleared my board. But instead, now I keep my Estinian. And that's a big deal. He loses his board, and I keep Estinian. So this was a misplay from Hara. I got to keep a forward. And this is a low roll, remember. Like every play matters. My hand was not a good hand. I did not hit well. I did not mill well. And this is the best of 3 that gets you to the World Championship next year. So I have a lightning card in my hand, and I have a lightning and an Odin, but I don't have another lightning to remove. Also, at this point, slow and steady is totally fine. 6 point of damage just means, and also Estinian's a threat. Um, the I don't have to play super quick anymore. I can just win the game at my pace. Um, every card I play is a threat. So here I'm sitting here like, what removal does Heart have? Can I just draw any haster and win me the game? Didn't draw it. I'm just like, well, whatever. I have literally every color in my deck in my hand. It's a left 6. That's totally fine. So I play Chaos Backup as removal. And I think I warped the Estinian. And this will trigger. And there's a Lev. So the Estinian stays gone. I don't have a lightning card, so I can't bring back lightning from our break zone. But I drew Larsa, so I'm going to play Larsa to go get probably a Jack Garland or a Estinian. And now I can bring back, yep, and that's the game. Okay. Nahara stays on fire water. Well, my hand looks like the nuts. I have all the cards that I want in my hand, but I just need to draw elements to play them. Okay, so this hand's a little awkward. I think I'm debating playing Tyro or playing Kryl. I'm pretty sure I'm going to play Kryl. Yep, and hold up a Materasu. And then next turn I can go Tyro into King Tycoon, and then maybe even Lena. Just depends. So Princess Goblin into Ephirian attack, and so Hara has 2 cards in his hand. I'm debating casting this Amaterasu as a like they discard 2. Yes, they wouldn't draw a card. So this Amaterasu is we both trade 2 cards for 2 cards. However, since my hand is like extremely strong, I think that's okay. Um, and I don't know the strength of Hara's hand. If Hara's hand is also very good, he probably doesn't want to discard those cards. Um, I can see this going both ways on whether to Amaterasu here or not. Um, also, like, I have the tempo advantage if he ends up discarding 2. Like, if we both go 2-2, I have 3 cards in my hand. He has 0. So, yes, he has backups, but I'm okay with that. Yeah, he just lets it go. So here, I think about this. So I'm playing Lena. I'm deciding to discard Seraphifel or Kuchelin because I'm thinking at first, oh, Tyro's my 5th backup, no big deal, whatever. No. Um, I can play the Seraphifel next turn if I draw a water card and have like a Nutso turn with like Warrior Light Refia. Um, and it turns out that's what I do. I actually draw 2 Refias. I remember this turn too. And over here, Hara's still setting up, and I think I'm favored in this scenario now because I have the Sarah FFL. And I sit here and think about it. I'm like, okay, that's going to cost me all my refios now. That's a little unfortunate. But it seems like the right play. This seems like an insanely powerful turn. Like, what if I draw like a Zidane here? It'd be kind of nuts. So baseline, I can play Refia and give it haste, and then on tap draw, and then maybe main phase two try to Tidus or something. I end up drawing Mist Dragon, Ifrit. Just decide not to play anything. I could have Limit Break Leo. I don't think that matters as much. Not a big deal. Which of the fins? Okay, right here I misplay. So right here I should Refia this witch to the bottom. Make Hara sacrifice his blue worm. But instead, I give him a choice. If he plays another monster, he gets a choice. So he ends up playing a Kodov, which has a trigger. So I respond to the trigger and get rid of the witch. But now, he can. Kodov is the worst monster compared to Blue Worm, right? And also he has a choice if he wants to kill Warrior Light or not. So it's just severely a misplay here. I should always get rid of the witch on ETB of witch, not on Kodov. But I believe Hara gets rid of Refia because it's the third Refia. So I draw Bosch, and my first instinct is like Bosch Zidane. But I feel like it's not worth it. He bursts a Tidus, doesn't use it because it's a Warrior Light, and also I have Lena, so that would be really bad. I don't know what I get here. Une, that makes sense. So I'm probably going to play this and be like, hey, answer my board. This is your last chance. And yeah, my last two cards in hand are Warrior Light, Ifrit. So even if Hara has his own Clive here, I have the answer. Which he does. He has Clive Ifrit, shooting Warrior Light, and Warrior Light shoots back the Ifrit. So if it attacks, I'm going to trade it for Bosch. But I still have this Une hanging around, which he has to special for. But he still can't attack. So, you know what I'm doing. Warrior Light into Ifrit. Discard this dead King Tycoon. It's like a perfect turn for me. This is so Hard just killed two on my board, two creatures on my board. I just played two hasters and killed the creature. Like, this is the power of the deck. So my last two cards, I believe, is it Fire Card Alma? No, it's not. It's Cecil Alma. I discard Tycoon. Yeah, it's Cecil Alma. And he bursts this Joseph. And I'm like, please use it, please use it, please trigger it. Go search, please, please, please. Because Lena will trigger it, and then I'm like, draw me a fire card, please. Which he does use it, and I do draw a fire card. 20 fire cards in the deck. Way more than normal. Because of the Clive and Ifrit. And I put him to 6. Horror thinks. I think the judge urges him also. He eventually plays Ifrit. And I have the Ama. I drew the fire card. So I Ama and ping with Warrior Light. And that wins it. Okay. So this is the losers final. And boy, if Lopez won this one, we would have been top 2, and that would have been a story for the books. Because it would have been 2 of the exact same decks. It would have been an exact mirror match. Me and him would have been qualified for the next Worlds together. Oh, it couldn't have been a better Worlds. So, oh boy, hang on. Let me see your hand, Lopez. What is this? This is unlucky. Spread them back out if you can. Oh, there we go. Blue Worm, Raijin, Lightning. There. Yikes. That's a yikers. Tonberry. I think it was another Sarah. All right, well, it's clearly Luna Freya. And hard discard 3 to Ama. So this is why you play 2 Luna Freya. It's rare, but it happens. Our hand is awful. Oh no. 1 chaos in the top 15, 16 cards, 17 cards. Oh man. This is not good. Turbo Chaos player here. Panic. For the record, just some quick maths. The odds, this is just drawing, this isn't exact, but good enough math. When you have 9 searchers, let me see if I can, yeah, right here, versatile math. There we go, perfect. Drawing a specific card odds. Drawing 1 or more. So if you're including mulligans, a 3 of in your deck in your opening hand is 27%. If you're mulliganing for it, it's 49.6%. So in the top 10 cards of your deck. Right here, this column is the one we care about. It's this 27.6 and this 49.6. This in the middle, that's technically this is your first 5. This is your second 5. Technically, that's what the 45 and the 50 stand for. But the way that probability works is you put them together if you're force mulliganing, right? Like if I don't have a chaos or a way to get chaos, I'm mulliganing, right? Um, so 49.5%, give or take. If you have 6 copies of a card, the way we do 6 is just like if you have a searcher, right? Back in the day with Soiree, this is what you did for like Amber and Shinju is the 6, and then people were like, that's not good enough, so they started playing Thornton because it's 75% chance for them to play the game. That's so low for Soiree. That's why Soiree you had to play Thornton because a fourth of your games you don't have Shinju, then you just lose. So 9 copies is 89%. So it's not 100% on this between Ezel, Larsa, and just drawing the chaos. But because Ezel, you have to have 2/2 drops, but there's a lot of 2 drops in the deck. I would argue we buffered even more than we needed to. But I like the number that's in here. I'd maybe cut 1/2 drop if I wanted to, but I wouldn't go any lower. So 89% for Lopez to see in the top 10 cards. He saw 17 on turn 1. And let me just double check. Were there any Larsas or anything like that? Well, I'm guessing no. And we know it wasn't there. And we knew it wasn't his draw step. So was it in his Luna Freya? No. So yeah, in the top 17, he didn't see it. That's kinda unlucky, bro. Oh, yikes. That's so sad because this is the game that matters the most. Oh, but I bet Hara's jumping for joy. So there's Ezel. Do we have a Chaos and a Chaos special here? We do. Okay. Oh, it's a miss. And it's a Miss Dragon. Okay, things could be worse. So I want to point this out. Hara doesn't play Shintoto backup. So but this is too much to overcome. KC Grand Finals wasn't in the script apparently. Yeah. Yeah. You're right, Rice. You're right. It was set up to be though. But this is part of the deck. Lopez knows too. This is just what you sign up for, right? You can't be mad if this happens. It's a statistic anomaly, but it's part of the deck, right? And look, I would also go as far as saying if it wasn't this exact matchup, you can still win with chaos. This is still not unwinnable. I mean, it is now. I mean, look what Hara's board is. But like this draw, you can still win with this draw. That's the power of the deck. It's unwinnable because he's set up and Lopez is about to lose his board. But like, if it wasn't this exact matchup, like it is winnable. Hara tapped 5 cards here, I think. Yeah, they fixed it. He didn't need to attack to set in for damage 3. That's kind of true, but also not true Yeah, what Jeff just said. I think you legit don't have the luxury of not putting him on damage three. You have to play to win, not to not lose. And because of that, attacking feels correct. Like you're already dead to everything. So you need to give yourself the best chance to win. If you don't attack, you just lose a damage. Are you not attacking for the next 3 turns? Then you lose 3 damage. You know? Like you have to win as soon as possible, especially when you're behind. When you're behind, if you have a 5% chance to win, that 5% that includes attacking. If you don't attack, it's not 5% anymore. It's like 2%. Chaos, chaos special. Miss Dragon again. Uh, I bet he feels a little upsetty about that, but it is what it is. All right. This video is pretty long. I have a pretty slow hand here. Do I have 2 chaoses or 1? Ezel for chaos. I have 1. I don't have another water card. That's the issue. So I out for a turn 3 chaos, which I feel like is okay because Hara has a slow hand. Hmm. Okay. So Jeff says, surprised he didn't pitch Odin to get 11 CP chaos. Yeah, I suppose. I don't think it matters too much though. The difference here being I could have another 11 CP in my hand versus 1 in the deck, right? It's technically right to get the 11. Hey, it's the other side of chaos. That's brutal. That's a brutal comment. The reverse Lopez. You guys are brutal. Oh man. So attacking, and this is the nightmare right here, right? So I can't talk about this chaos because I just played it. So I didn't go for the turn 3 chaos, I went for the turn 2 chaos. Yeah. Um so this is pretty unfortunate. However, Hara's still not very set up. But this is, what I want to avoid with the deck. I love FFTCG. Sometimes it's just full circle. Love 6 is a pretty messed up card. So Hara has a tempo turn here. Tros, Titus, draw 2. And Leo. So I'm wondering here if I'm Noctis, thinking about Noctis Cipher, if a Noctis Cipher turn. And the next turn, I'm going to dump my hand. And this is the reason why we played Noctis in this deck and exactly one Cipher. We also have one Miwa for a similar reason against Ice. Also, back attack can just matter, right? uh, but yeah, it's also against Knights, even though like we expect to see Knights, but and there was a lot more Knights than I expected at the tournament. But yeah, there's one Miwa because of that. So it's clearly looking not great for me, and this is all on the backbone of Love 6. So Hara plays Little Leela, and immediately comes across my mind Chaos, 11 drop Chaos, and then I draw it, um, because it's a third element. So even if I took a Leo here, it's still killing a blocker basically. So I'm wondering, can I Cipher and Chaos and do stuff? Because I can have a huge tempo swing. So I start with Chaos because he can't give me Little Leela. Then I'm going to play Cipher, get back Fujin, but then just play Raijin. Attack, break Little Leela. That was a pretty good turn, right? Look how many forwards I put into play. I've had 4 forwards that turn. And I'm willing to trade this for Tros or Titus. Hits Leonora, but has no search targets. Again, attack with Noctis, willing to trade it for Titus or Tros. Like, that was a really crazy tempo swing, right? Better to trade with Tros now than let it attack next turn. I feel like Hara never attacks with Tros, like ever. um, I don't know if he does this turn. I don't recall, but I feel like he almost never does. So Hagen, Leo. So I asked the question here because it um returned to its owner's hand, and it's Leo. I just wanted to clarify it's going to Hara's hand, quote unquote, right? Will it draw off Titus and Tros? And reading the card here, yes, it does. Character your opponent controls is returned to the field of its owner's hand. So its owner's hand is Hara. It doesn't care that it's controlled by me. Well, it does because it has to target me, but yeah. I just wanted to make sure that wording. What a value play though, right? Sahagin to kill a dude and draw two cards. Wow, that's like giga value. And you can do it again on the back end. Bounce Noctis. Draw two. So I feel like I just had a haymaker turn, and this turn is just a better version of my tempo turn, just getting out tempoed. And then the ultimate weapon right after, just it's brutal. And look, Hara didn't attack with Tros because he bounced with Sahagin. Hara doesn't attack with it. Not much I can do here. Oh, he attacked with Tros. I hit Noden. So something that I didn't recognize. So this game's gonna be. I'm gonna lose this game. But something I didn't recognize is Earth Lightning bounces itself. I mean, I knew that. I played the card, but like it triggering Tros and Titus to draw two cards. I could have had that strategy in my mind several turns ago and just didn't. So I go second here. Hard just has it on the first hand. Turn one back up and Miss Dragon, huh? Just has it. This is a hand where I have double chaos and Ezel, so I also have it. And I milled the nuts. But R is going to go to 0 cards, even though and he didn't burst, which is really good for me. Even though I didn't hit Fujin Raijin here, R went to 0 cards, and his Leo deck is the other deck. So now I'm debating, am I going to put him to 3? Right? Well, I'm here, so I'm going to put him to 3. One Ferris is already gone, and I believe Hara plays 2. I'll double check. I'm curious. Plays 2. Luna Freya for Tyro here is kind of backbreaking. So we got Arcure, and he didn't play it, which makes me feel like I have to win the game now, like right now. But I don't know if I can. Like I theoretically can, right? Like hit Fujin Raijin and Lightning and get in there. The game's over because I have a Cipher in my hand. I theoretically can. Okay. But he has the second Miss Dragon. So I'm going to activate Lightning in response to bring it back. But I wonder, did I draw an Earth card? Is that what I'm thinking? I could be posturing. I don't even know a dark card anyways. Yep. So this is also just very unfortunate. Hara's gonna have a super turn unless he doesn't have the colors for some reason. But again, like this is double Mist Dragon, right? Hara's at 6. This is a double Mist Dragon game, and Hara's at 6. This deck is that powerful. This deck is like ridiculous. So I don't know. Yeah, just goes off. I don't think there's much to say. Yeah. So we go back in. Jacket comes off, and I choose the Warrior Light Mirror. I have a feeling he's gonna always pick Warrior Light. Um, and I choose the mirror match because Hara has been on a rampage these last few games. Feels like he's figured it out. Feels like he like this would be the weakness I would say of playing the same deck as another player in the tournament. Um, because he's played against me and Lopez multiple times throughout the tournament, so he kind of has the reps at this point. Um, However, I would still do this every single time. I would still always play the same deck as him as we work together. I have no regrets, none of that. However, this is where it comes to like this is true skill at this point. Um, it's not always about like unfamiliarity anymore. He's familiar with my deck. It's that simple. Um, Now that being said, I do think hindsight, I'm supposed to just jam chaos. Like it's not because of like high roll. It's not any of that. It's I mean like you can make the argument brute force, right? He Lopez got unlucky, and then chaos lost twice for me. Like that's three losses in a row. What's the odds of a fourth loss happening, right? What's the odds of him having Miss Dragon every time again, right? Well, the kicker here for me is he doesn't play Shantoto in his Warrior Light deck, so he has to have the Miss Dragons. So I probably should have played Chaos. However, the Warlight Mirror, I think I'm still comfortable enough with that it'd be fine. And now we're in a best of one, so this is the actual final. So this is turn one. Let it turn two, three backups. But Hara's at one card. So this is that scenario before where I mentioned this is like the nut draw, right? But um Hara's got one card in his hand. And this while I'm behind, I think I have the capabilities of catching up with this kind of scenario, especially with a card like Shantoto in my deck. So, however, my hand's pretty rocky. It's not that good. And a card like Cecil would catch me back up. And that's what I'm thinking about. So we get a Tyro for Warrior Light here. So next turn, we know what's coming. So here, I'm curious what I'm going to do. I think I'm supposed to Tycoon Lina every time. I'm curious if I'm going to. Just overpay for Lina. Just play from behind. Because I have Clive. Okay, I did. But I might Zidane here still. I might play off curve. But I think I'm supposed to always Lena here, right? I don't know if I'm going to. Yeah, I didn't think so. I think this is a misplay. So I take the Warrior Light, but this leaves me open to a lot of problems. But hitting Warrior Light Refia is pretty good. That would have been his turn last turn, so but here's the problem. So like my hand that this Zidane is backbreaking. Look at my hand. My hand's literally the nuts. So he takes Lena. I draw another Lena. So My gut drops here because I feel like he should take the Lina again, but he ends up taking Cryle, I believe. But if I'm him, I think I would be taking the Lina. Now, my next turn might, Cecil Cryle's probably pretty good. So maybe that's why. But like Cecil Clive is still really good. Okay. So the thing that's crossing my mind right now is Amaterasu, right? Can I play around Amaterasu? And I try to go to combat and he Kuchelins. So I get punished for not playing Cecil immediately here. So it was another misplay in my opinion. Yeah, this is just a lot of misplays. This is not good. It's a little unfortunate. It's like a missed attack. It's if I just start with Cecil, then he has to pay more for the Kuchelin, which you would tap out. Sure. And this arc is pretty mirror breaking in my opinion. This card buffing everything by 2K can be problematic. Like hindsight, I would maybe want one of it in my deck because making Cecil 10K is kind of sweet. Also, making your Ifrit a 12 um, is also huge. So because it's good against opposing Ifrits. Drawing Warrior Light here is pretty good. The next episode of KP Talks is gonna be so spicy. Yeah, you got a 2 hour one here, bro. But I'm also a little disappointed in my play in the final. I'm not gonna lie. And Horror hasn't drawn very well this game, and this is a game I maybe should have been able to capitalize on if I played a little bit tighter. So I'm attacking. Refia's it. I'm debating if I put him to damage 3 or not. So I'm attacking and shooting Refia because I'm gonna probably Zack it main phase 2. It's a Warrior Light. Probably taking it. Oh, this represents another Refia, which is what I'm a little worried about. So now I'm thinking, can I Zack and Vajraharda? But that's still not good enough because the +2. So let's see, where is it? Arc. Forwards you control get +2. So I have to do both. Let's see. So we have +2, 1, 2, 3, and 5. So I check with the table judge what arc does. We actually get held up here because it's among forwards you control. So Raffia didn't get +2. It's a 7K. Just wanted to, confirm it's among forwards you control. And apparently I heard that the feature match area, or like the other room, was freaking out, saying it shouldn't die and stuff like that because +2, but it's among forwards you control. So Hara has Weirlight, Noctis. Gonna start going ham. Ferris. Not looking good for me. Literally has it all. So here I burst a Tyro, and I search for a Bosch, but I don't have an Earth card. I feel like I have to Shantoto here. And I'm pretty sure he knows I have to Shantoto also. But I don't draw an Earth card. I have a hand of fire and wind cards. It's kind of crazy. So my first mindset is, can I beat this board with regular Warlight stuff? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no. So then I'm like, okay, can I Cecil and do Warlight stuff? And the answer was also not great. So then I'm like, okay, can I Cecil Bosch for Shintoto? And the answer was yes, but it's also not very good. So I'm in a lot of trouble here. And I'm also dead to Ama. So this card, this lets me somewhat play around Ama. So let me see how many cards I have. 6. So if I discard 2, play Cecil Bosch. Discard 2, Cecil Bosch, search. I can't play Toto. So doing this means I can't play Toto unless I burst a card to draw a card. And him not having the Ama, well, it's good news. It's also bad news because I can't. I needed to think this out more and realize I just can't beat Ama, so I can't play around it. Playing through the Dane cost me the game, in my opinion. So I just had to hope he didn't have it. And the reason, so early in the game when he arced, I think it was arc, he revealed with something. Maybe it was arc burst. He put 2 Amas to the bottom of the deck. So for a while I knew it was Ama free. But then he searched his deck with Claris. I think it was Claris. Maybe it was Tyro. And it shuffled. And then he drew 5 or 6 cards since then. And while the odds are still low, it scared me, and I probably should have just not respected it still because it would have gave me the most percentage points to win. And I had to take a risk somewhere because like this entire game, I've had more cards than Hara because he played all his backups on turn two, right? I've had more card advantage the entire game. I'm the control player. I'm gonna have to take a risk in a little while and go for it. And if he has Alma, he has Alma. It's the end of the game. But if he doesn't have Alma, then I can bounce back. But I just never set myself up for that kind of play. I kept playing from behind and kind of fearful, and that definitely cost me the game. So I play as Ferris and everything takes a damage, and I totally forget about this Noctis. I'm not gonna lie. It's just chilling. I should have killed the Noctis. Instead, Hara got Ferris triggers. I chose nothing. I'm kind of out of it at this point. I messed everything up. I don't know what I'm doing. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. And I lose on this next turn. Like this is just giga punt after giga punt. This game's over. There are two omelets on the bottom of the deck from Arc. There were, and then he shuffled his deck. I don't recall exactly, but he shuffled his deck. His Toto's in break. I have two Totos. Raw Dog, Bosch. So I thought about that. I didn't have the Earth card, but I still could have, at the very, if I was so far behind, I didn't have the Earth card, there's still a chance that Bosch is still the best play because I could burst to get an Earth card. Like, that could also just be the play. So, those are the matches. It's a long video, but I'm going to go over a couple things. Would I make any changes to the deck? Well, yes, I would include the Lemon Break would obviously be different, right? Noctis would be in this deck. Lunafreya would be in this deck. I'd cut the Sid and Vajra, one Vajra for one Lunafreya, one Noctis. Seems pretty simple enough. Would I change any of these cards? After speaking with Lopez, he mentioned he doesn't know if he likes Clive Ifrit in this deck. I still love it, so we're kind of indifferent. Um, I wouldn't play this deck without haste or without some kind of crazy spin-off. I don't really care to play a mid-range color pile like this without some kind of flair to it. So I think that I would continue to do something like this if I were to play the deck again. Or I would try, if I cut the Clive and Ifrit, I would definitely try this third Cecil and one Earth Cecil and then go from there. I could see myself trying to fit another arc, the 4-drop arc in the deck. I have no idea what I would cut. Um, I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe it's King Tycoon. Could be one of King Tycoon. I don't know. Um, so for Chaos, I think I'd keep this one Cipher. Cipher's really good. I would obviously put Leo's in here in the limit break. Always play two in the limit Freya. You kind of saw that in the feature match against with Lopez where you got Ahmed, right? Um, there are times you have to have two Luna Freyas. They are very that's sub 5%, but it matters. So you should always play two Luna Freya. I would also play two Leo, so I'd probably cut Gilgamesh and one Noctis probably. I like Mont because sometimes the +1 matters. Sometimes it lets you play around certain bursts, like 5-drop Ifrit that does 9k. Um, Sometimes Brave matters, things like that. um, I would not play Behemoth in here. I would not play Cleone. If you want a third Jack Garland, that's fine. There was a time against Eureka that I had this Lightning in play, and he just kept, it's like red unblockable, right? He had Citra and Rosa and Atomos in play. Well, I almost played Jack Garland because it would have forced him to block, and then I can res it again. Like, that's kind of big. It's kind of interesting. Um, so there's a chance I could play a 3 Jack Garland. Not, I've never cast this card. It's literally just because it's a purple Chaos card, but it does have its applications. Sometimes it is better for them to block than not block. It just depends on their field. Like, you want them to, you rather them clear their board than them take damage. Sometimes that does happen. Again, it's like sub 5%, but I think that's what this deck needs is refinement on those sub 5%. And I feel like what we did is kind of good, but we could still improve it. Like Miwa is another sub 5% card, but there are reasons for this card. So, some people like 2CP Odin. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether I like it or not. I just went with this because I've cast this card for removing 6 lightning cards several times. So it being a removal spell does matter. I'm always on 6 lightning from now on. For a while, I was going to cut one of these, but this card has just been phenomenal. So just just as a flash, put and play a forward card, like that's just been good enough. So I don't think I would change too much other than that. We just fix the limit breaks and go from there. I don't know if there's much else to talk about. I'm trying to think. I do think Cecil's in a good position right now. I also considered um, having one card in this deck to activate all your cards. Um, but I didn't play a card like that in the long run because we were coming, like, it was really, really tight on spots. Or like we considered like a one of Rosa because Cecil, Rosa, like obviously Rosa Warrior Light's good, Rosa Une's good, but also like it's a 4 character you can put in play. Um, and again, the +1 can matter. So, but yeah, I think Shintoto is good, but I also think that there's merit to not playing Shintoto. However, you do have to worry about your Earth count still. So, if you don't want to play Shintoto, I think that's totally fine, but you do need a plan against aggro. And this deck could do it. I think it's actually totally fine to not play Shintoto. Um, Especially with Cecil's, right? Like they dump their hand and then it's like, oh, you can like Cecil Clive or Cecil Warrior Light or like depending on if they put you the damage threshold, like having the arc is like super big. So there are merits to not playing Shintoto. Also, it's not like you have limit break Shintoto too, right? So there's that as well. I will say that this version of so I feel like Warrior Light in general kind of had a bad monsters mashup. I think this version has a good monsters matchup. I think the haste version of Warrior Light flips a lot of bad matchups on its head into good matchups, or at least it's better. It's not like ridiculously good. It's like 55 or 60% in Warrior Light's favor, whereas before I think it was extremely bad. So, um, I would favor playing something like this or close to this in the future if you were playing Warrior Light. But maybe I guess from my perspective, I want Arc, 4-drop Arc. I don't know what I'd cut for it, but I do. I also would want replacement for Shantoto. If you're not playing Shantoto, then you need to play like your mind off. You're gonna have to play well the entire day. So be prepared for that. Um, I didn't really care for Kuchulin to be honest, but I feel like it's a kind of card that you sometimes you have to have it to out some things. And at the very worst, it's an anti-aggro card. So, um, yeah, I don't think I would move anything else around. I don't think there's much else. So, a present to myself was so I got a bunch of Japanese cards. Thank you so much to all the people who helped out and all the people I met at Worlds. Um, it's a blessing to meet all of you, and it was really cool to meet a bunch of people who watch KP Talks, and it makes me feel really good to get all the support from everybody. So thank you so much. One of the gifts for myself was to get a max rarity um, play set, quote unquote, of Limit Break in Japanese foil. So like in this case, it's two Titus. I don't need a third one because there's no reason for a third one, right? Or like one Limit Break Shantoto. You get the gist. And a lot of people helped me out with getting all that kind of stuff, and I did succeed. So I have everything, um, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And I was tweeting out like, "Hey, I need these cards. Hey, I need those cards." Right? Like I needed these. I got all of them. So I'm very, very grateful and very happy about it. Everyone helped me out. So thank you so much. This is my finalist trophy and my finalist card. The card is actually textured. The other ones are not. The regular gold and these whatever. This is just like a gold one and a regular one. They're not textured. They're just normal. But the one in the trophy case, I have it right here. The one in here, it's textured. So I found that kind of interesting that they changed it up a little bit. And this trophy is really heavy too. It's kind of nice. Yeah. So, to end on a good note here, thanks for all the support, everybody. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll do what I can to answer. It's been a long journey, and I'm very happy with where I've come. Um, I'm not very happy with how I played the final, but that being said, I'm happy I made it there. There's always next time, right? I was one away from a Versatile card. Oh man, always keeps us coming back, right? But no, I'm happy with my performance. Um, the dream scenario was there. Me versus Lopez in the final could have happened. Did it happen? No. Um, in a way, I kind of feel like Hara kind of had a plot armor there at the end, but it's totally fine. He did a good job. Well done to him. Congratulations. Um, and second place, there's nothing wrong with second place. It stings a little bit, right? Being one away, but it's also making the most of the opportunity I was given. So that's what I try to do. Thank you so much, guys. Till next time. Thank you for watching.